welcome to Getting Started with EPDs. And this is, I think, the first time we're having this kind of webinar, as we see that we have a lot of questions. It could be, what is an EPD? But it could also be, where should I start? The EPD process, big and small questions. And we think that this could be a good introduction. And we hope that it will help you to get started with the EPDs and so on. But I'm here together with my colleague, Prit, and maybe you can start, present yourself, Prit.
Yes, hello. Thank you for joining. My name is Prithvesh. You can call me Prit for short, and I work as a market and sales specialist at EPD International. I'm based in Gothenburg in Sweden. Thank you.
And my name is Sara Westerlund, and I'm based in Stockholm, and I'm working as a customer success expert. So Prit and I work in the same team, the market and support team, and have a lot of collaborations. But for example, this webinar, we will have this presentation together and go through everything step by step with you. So I can also tell you that we have a Q&A in the end of the webinar. So please ask your questions there, as you can. Maybe you have noticed that you are muted, and that's why you can write in the chat instead. So in the end of the webinar, we will take questions. We don't know how many and how much time we will have for it, but if we don't have time for all questions, then we will arrange something afterwards where you will get answers on the questions after the webinar. So we have the agenda. So just so you know what will be included in this webinar. And to start with, we have what is an EPD and why you need it. But we will also go further to talk about EPD International and the EPD process. And we will mention how the EPD portal works. This is not an introduction to the portal because we have another webinar when it comes to that. But we will explain how the EPD portal works so that you have some information and understand why you need the EPD portal. We will also end with where to find the information and how to get started. And as I said, we will finish with an Q&A. So we start with what is an EPD?
Yes. Right. So what is an EPD? I'm pretty sure you must be wondering. First of all, EPD is then an abbreviation for the term Environmental Product Declaration. What does this mean? It's basically a standardized report for declaring the environmental performance over the lifetime of your product. So this is based on the principles of life cycle assessments, which takes in the entire life cycle of the product, looks at how the raw materials are sourced, how material is transported to, say, tier 1, tier 2 supplier, and also to the manufacturing unit, and what are the processes that go into manufacturing a product from throughout the entire value chain. Lifecycle assessment does a very good job of quantifying these data into an environmental emissions results. So an EPD also provides results on multiple impact indicators. We don't talk only about carbon, we talk a lot more beyond carbon, and it's based on a specific rule book. So each product would be categorized under a product category, and there would be a rule book for performing these calculations for each product category, what we call it as product category rules. I will talk more about this going forward. Most importantly as well, it is externally and independently verified by a third party, so that the data that is presented is verified, credible, and everything that goes on behind it is transparent, and therefore the verification step is quite important in the entire flow. So the image on the right kind of shows the multiple layers an EPD is built on. So there are organizational standards, ISO 9001, which and other environmental management standards, which on top of it you have the LCA, lifecycle assessment standards, that builds on top. Um, and then you have very specific EPD related standards, that is the ISO 14025, 14027, 14029, and so on and so forth. And we have on top of that, each program operator, such as ourselves, we would have more specific guidance and rules that would be addressed in the general program instructions, GPI, as we'd like to call it. And then you have the product specific standards, the PCRs, and then the CPs, complementary product category rules, which would be more defined rules, a set of rules for performing the calculations. And on top of all this, the EPD comes. So basically, it's an indication that there are multiple layers of that one needs to think about when performing an EPD. Next slide, please. So you must be wondering, why do you need an EPD? It's in a nutshell, since EPDs provide transparent, objective, and comparable data, this helps you as a original equipment manufacturer, or maybe as a buyer of these products, to understand the environmental impact of a product. And the environmental impacts can be compared as well across products because of the usage of the product category rules, which helps to harmonize product data comparison. This will largely help decision making. Like I said, if you're a buyer looking to procure products, and also as a design in the design aspect of developing a product, this will help you understand the hotspots, which steps in the entire product life cycle have a larger impact than the other, and this helps you as an organization as well to decide on how to project your organizational footprint, and also then where can you focus your initiatives on reducing your overall footprint as well. Most importantly, EPDs are used as a tool, as a market tool to meet regulatory requirements. And now we can talk about global requirements. There are localized requirements in the EU, in the US, and so on and so forth. So it is used mainly as a market-based tool to sort of meet reporting requirements. Yes, next slide, please.
Yes, and from that we could also then go to about EPD International, so you have some background information. And we have been working with EPDs since 1997, so we have a long experience with EPDs, and we are fully owned by EIVL, which is the Swedish Environmental Research Institute. And right now, we are the market-leading EPD program operators. And with that said, we have a library with 20,000 plus EPDs. And why that is important is that when we have a library with a lot of EPDs, this would also help with the comparability. So sometimes you can say that you are market leading, you have a big library, and maybe that doesn't matter. But in this case, it does matter, because when we have a lot of EPDs, you could also compare products in all different product categories. And we're also the inventors of EPD and PCR. So when we talk about experience, you can have in mind that we are inventors, but also that we have been working with EPDs for a very long time. And We also have an extension of the EPD International system, which is the co-location centers and the licensees. And as you can see in the picture, we have in different places all over the world. And this could also help if you are an EPD owner that works from, you're based in, for example, Turkey, it could be India, it could be in North America. And this will be like in between us and you. So the EPD will go through the licensee, for example, but we will always publish the EPD in the library. So the publication will always be through us. And to mention something more about the co-location centers and licensees, we have this opportunity because we want the clients, you, for example, that you could be guided through the EPD development and registration, and maybe sometimes the licensees could help you more, and that is important for you in your EPD process. And you can see the licensees as a local help desk, so you can always ask us questions, and as I said, the publication will always go through us. But when we have special questions about regulations and how it works in your country and everything, then it could be very helpful to go to your local help desk. And the licensees also ensure EPDs are registered and published through the international EPD International system, and that also, it will always be operated and fully aligned with our standards, our procedures, our brands. So when you look at a licensee, for example, North America, you can always see it as a part of us. So it's just an extension, and it's not different in any way. And all EPDs are accepted globally. And when we say that we are a global program operator, the licensees and co-location centers help us to be this global. And we also want to take the opportunity to talk about why EPD International. Maybe you're confused because we have a lot of EPD program operators and maybe we work in different ways and so on. But we will take the opportunity to talk about like why us. And as we see it, we are a program operator with strong global recognition, and we are also built on solid standards and proven processes. It's important for you to know that it will be right. Sometimes you think that it should go fast, maybe, and maybe you are not sure how important the quality is, for example. But we want to raise the importance of the process and the quality and so on. Because if we talk about the end customer, for example, it's very important that you get the right result. Maybe the end customer, it could be a property owner, for example, take a decision based on this EPD. And if the EPD is not correct done, maybe that will be a problem later on when the decision making have been done on these results, for example. And I also mentioned this before about the largest PCR and EPD libraries, also used across industries, markets, all over. And we'll also mention the available support. We cannot help with everything. It's very important to know that we are not doing anything regarding the LCA study, which Britt will talk about a little bit more later on. But we can also will give you support about the PCR development, for example. Which PCR should I choose? Like, how do this work? Why do we need this? The registration of the EPD. We have a support that could help you from the first step to the publication. So just have in mind that you are not alone in the EPD process, which could be maybe difficult, at least for the first time. We would also want to raise the digital solutions, which is designed to simplify every step of the EPD process. We don't say that we have a solution for everything. We don't say that improvements are needed. This is an ongoing process. But we still work for the digital solutions, and we do it, for example, with the digital format, compiler, EPDs. We also have different tools that you can get help from. And for example, we offer API, which could be in upstream and downstream. So this is a big topic. We will not dig in so deep into it, but just know that we have a lot of digitalization included in our offer, and that we will work more with this in the coming time. And I mentioned quality earlier, but we think this is very important. And I also received a question one time like, okay, you say quality EPDs, and what is quality EPDs? And easily explained, because this is a big topic, I could say that it's including clear rules, standardized methods, and transparent processes. And this could be like, yeah, of course, but it's not. It's not that easy all the time. So it's important that you have a good organization behind, and that we, for example, have experienced experts, and that we are very committed to the high standards, like the high quality of the EPDs, and that it's correct. That's the most important thing for us, because we also know what like the end customer, for example, will use the EPD for. And just a last word about the why EPD International. If you have questions, please let us know. But it's just simplified in that we are a trusted program operator. And I think you can hear that from different corners, for example, from LCA practitioners that have a lot of knowledge in EPDs. And we are delivering credibility you can rely on. So that's one point we want to end the why EPD International with. And with that said, I will go into costs, because we know that you have probably questions about this. And we, the International EPD system, have two types of fees, which is the registration fee and the annual fee. And included in this are like the registration of the EPD and the publication. You pay the registration fee for registration of each EPD, but then you pay the annual fee to have the EPD published in the library, where it's also included with, like, for example, updates and so on. What's not included in this cost is the performing of the underlying life cycle assessment, the LCA. That's in between you and the LCA practitioner if you don't have the LCA expert in-house. And it's not included also with the verification, because as Prit mentioned, we have the third-part verification. So the cost when it comes to verification is between you and the verifier. Also mentioning is the compiling the data into EPD reporting format. Maybe you do this by yourself, so this is not a cost for you if you are an EPD owner. But some EPD owners also get help from the LCA practitioner, and then it could be included in the cost in that way. And just to show you the price model is that, for example, when you create the first EPD, it will cost 1,000 euro. But when you come to the second one, second to fourth, it will be 500. And then from the fifth one, we have 100 for each EPD, for example. And over 100, then you have 50. So this is a price model that encourages volume. So you can see it as if I have one EPD, maybe it looks expensive, but if you see that I have a plan to register a lot of EPDs, then it will be a difference. But important to mention is that this is a price model that goes for a calendar year from start 1st January to the 31st December. So if you create 10 EPDs, like during this year, for example, you will start with 1,000 euro and for the 500 between the second and fourth, and so on. But then the next year, you will start over again with the first one will be 1,000 euro. Just for your information, if you're doing the budget or something. And we will not dig in so deep to the EPD developed by fully pre-verified tools. We used to mention that we have another price model when it comes to that. So price per EPD is 69 euro. But when you have a fully pre-verified tool, then you're also publishing a lot of EPDs. So that's something different. And just to mention the annual fee, that it's based on the organization size. So it doesn't matter how many EPDs you have. This is only based on the organization. So it depending on how many employees you have. If you have 1 to 10, you have a lower price, for example, if you have over 250 employees. And the annual fee, as I said, is for like having the EPD published in the EPD library. Like it could be found by everyone. It's open. You don't need an account to find this EPD. So this could be very good also when you are talking to your customers and so on. And also the updates and everything will be included in the annual fee. And now we think that we will go through the general 5 steps of create an EPD.
Right, let's get on with it then. Overall, there are five fundamental steps to generate and publish an EPD. Firstly, we start with selecting a product category rule. As I had mentioned previously, these are the product-specific rule book that must be followed in order to perform your calculations. Second step is then to perform a very comprehensive LCA study based on these product rules that we have. And then you will compile the information into the EPD reporting format. This could be in the in a traditional format, that is a PDF. We have templates for it as well, which Sarah will show you the resources later on, or we have the compiler format of generating an EPD as well. And then verification of the EPD, which is a mandatory step as well. This has to be third-party independently verified, as I had mentioned. And then the final step is the registration and the publication process. So we can get more into detail into each of these steps. If you can move to the next slide, Sarah. So selecting the PCR, the product category rule. This is a very important step. That's because without the correct PCR, it's not possible to perform or to conduct the calculations, and therefore there will be deviations as well. So the products are grouped into broader product categories, and each product category would have its own set of rules, right? And what we mean by complementary PCR, the complementary product category, is that the grouping is more defined and it's a lot more specific. So when we talk about, for example, construction products, construction material, there are probably thousands of material that goes into the construction of a building or into any infrastructure project. So when I talk about complementary PCR, is that you have more defined set of rules for, say, your cement, windows, doors, insulation material, and so on and so forth. So therefore, this also enables better comparison because the complementary PCR will introduce a more specific guidance to perform the calculations, but also will introduce a more defined functional unit based on which the LCA study will be performed. So here you're welcome to contact us at our support inbox if you need any guidance for the selection of a right PCR, because sometimes it may not be as straightforward, but also sometimes there may be more than one PCR that's applicable to your product category. And if you remember the pyramid I showed earlier, it's because there are also product specific standards, and there are also other organizational standards that build up and that define the PCR. So here we will try to help you with what standard is important for you in terms of seeking compliance to meet the regulatory requirements, but also to help define what product category your product fits into, and therefore which is the rule book that you would need. If a PCR does not exist, though, then this can for sure be developed. There's a PCR development process as well. This is there on our website, but it does not mean the end of the world. You can always contact us to seek guidance for developing these PCRs as well. Second step is therefore to perform these comprehensive life cycle assessments based on the PCR that was chosen in the first step. Here, it's important to understand the competence as well within your organization. If you have the in-house competence to perform LCAs, you're very welcome to proceed with that. But also, we would like to highlight that we have LCA and EPD consultants who can help facilitate the process for you. On our website, we share a list of available LCA consultants that you may contact with and seek guidance. The pricing and the time taken to perform these LCAs is, well, most important, is dependent on the consultant that you hire. But what this also means is because an LCA is very data heavy. So there's a lot of data that goes into that you need to synthesize and perform the calculations. The pricing can also depend on how complex your product system could be. Like if you had one supplier and one manufacturer, then it's probably more simpler than when you have a pool of suppliers and also a much deeper value chain that is involved in the manufacturing of your product. So therefore, the complexity of the product system is indicative as well on the time and costs that your LCA would require. Also about the availability of data. As I said earlier, it is data intensive, and you need to synthesize the data to perform the calculations. So it also depends on how mature the data systems are in your end, but also in your value chain, because you need to gather that data to perform the calculations. We do also have pre-verified tools offering, which helps to simplify the process. I'm not going to get too much into this, but you can find basic information in our GPI and our website, but you're most welcome to contact us as well to seek guidance, because the pre-verified tools helps to decentralize the process a little. Like you could get part of the LCA process verified beforehand, and therefore the remaining part of it would go under your independent third-party verification. I would like to move to the next step, where we then, based on the LCA study that you have done previously, you would analyze and gather the information, which would be the environmental performance results of the product and the product system, right? So the results of the LCA study would be compiled into a report. We have two types of formats to do the reporting itself. The standard format, as I said, it's the more traditional way where you have PDF, so you would gather all the information into a Word document or any sort of Microsoft Office tool that you use or reporting tools that you use. But essentially, the output would be a PDF report. And then we have the EPD compiler format. I can quickly say this is a more novel way of producing EPDs, and its main purpose is to facilitate digital data. So how can you use the data from the EPDs into other use cases, for instance? So this is a digitalized solution for EPDs, which is also machine readable, and it avoids the need to create EPD PDF documents. We will have a webinar. Sarah will introduce you to the upcoming webinars, and maybe we will get more deeper into these ways of reporting as well. Yes, verification. So again, since it was a mandatory step, that is the basic principle of ISO 14025, is that EPDs must be third-party independently verified. So we do recommend you to make contact with a verifier quite early on in the process, because it would help you as well in how you're structuring your LCA studies, but also it helps you understand what you would need to deliver to your verifiers early on. I can also add that the LCA reports that would you have done in step 2, these are confidential information. So we as a program operator, we do not demand that you share the LCA report with us, but you would need to share the LCA reports to your verifier or the verification body, because this will help them in their assessment if all the rules and regulations as per our rule book they are complied with. Independent verification takes approximately 2 to 5 business working days, but then again, this is also quite subjective based on how complete your reports are, based on how transparent you are being with your verifier or verification body, and yeah, based on the completeness of the information that you are providing to your verifiers. This will help dictate how long it would take for verification. You can find a list of verifiers once you create an account in our portal, but also on our website as well. You find a list of verifiers and verification bodies. In our language, we'd like to call it accredited certification bodies. So again, there are 2 ways of getting your EPDs verified. You will find this list on the portal as well as on the website. I would also like to add that using pre-verified tools will also help simplify the verification process on the EPD level. So if it can, by simplifying, I would also comment on not just the time, but also the costs of the individual independent verification of the EPDs. Next slide, please. And now you have done the verification, you have the EPD in the necessary format that you have. So then the final step is that you register the EPD on our portal, and you send it for publication to the EPD library. The EPD owner has the right to then send the EPD for verification, for publication, sorry. But you can have LCA practitioners, LCA consultants help you in the previous steps that I have mentioned before. As Sarah had spoken about the cost, the registration fee will apply. And I would also like to add that the pricing presented were in euros, but if you are based in one of our licensee regions, which the map that Sarah showed you, then you will have more localized pricing structures based on your local currencies as well. So within EU, within Europe, if your company is registered within Europe, then the centralized pricing structure would apply. But if not, then you would be subject to local pricing structures as dictated by our licensees. So you send the EPD for publication, and we, as the secretariat, we would make the publication most usually in within 1 to 3 business days. And once the EPD is published, this would be available in the EPD library. But also, when we talk about construction products, we are a recognized program operator by Echo Platform. So the data, the EPD data, and the reports are also being sent to Echo Platform, which serves as a database as well for all construction material in Europe. The EPD will the Firstly, I would also add the validity of an EPD is usually 5 years. There are certain terms and conditions applied, but here as well, it's the verifier who assesses if that all the conditions are being met in order to decide appropriate validity of the EPD. But mostly it is always 5 years. And during these 5 years, the EPD will remain published as long as you're also continuing to pay the annual fees, and therefore it'll be available in the library. And you're very welcome to make any updates to the EPD during this process, but there are also conditions that you need to regularly check and monitor if any significant changes are happening in your end in the product system, which will require that you update an EPD, and therefore some updates would also have to go through a re-verification as well. Yes, that was the entire process.
Yes. And from that, we will go to the EPD portal. And as I mentioned, we will have a portal introduction to the portal where we will have like the same amount of time when just dig into the system and see the functionality. But just to mention some points about the EPD portal, because it's very central when it comes to the EPD registration. And the registration into the EPD portal is free of charge. So when we talk about cost and everything, it's only a cost when you're actually registering your EPD. So you could go through the website, create an account, totally free, and then you could create drafts, for example. You could get to know the system. Should I use standard format, compiler format, invite colleagues to your organization, and so on. So you can start early with the portal, and it will not be any invoice for that. And just easily simplified, the portal is used for EPD registration and verification. So you are doing the registration of an EPD, and then the verification will be done through the portal. And then it will go further to publication, and our publication team will handle the EPDs. And you can either create a new organization, you create your account at first, but then you will also create a new organization, or you can join an existing one. So you will have both, like we have the organizations registered in the system, but also you will have a own user account. So we have personal accounts. And it's possible, as I said, to invite colleagues, but you could also assign roles to EPDs, such as LCA practitioner and verifier. And the reserve EPD numbers and create drafts could be important to know just if you want to do it in an early state. So that's possible from the beginning, even though maybe the LCA study is not done. So I think tip could be to you start early. It could be early to find a verifier. It could be early to create an account in a portal and get to know the system. So don't wait until the LCA study is done. You can start before that, and then you are prepared for the EPD registration. And When it comes to EPD, the EPD process and everything, it's a lot of information. So where can you find it? Like everything can be found at our website, environdec.com. And that's also why our website could be like kind of overwhelming because it's a lot of information. So this is some kind of help that we think that you should go to the website and find the general program instructions. We could also, in the email that we are sending out after the webinar, we could also link to this to make it easy for you. But if you just search on the website, you will also find it. You need the general program instructions to understand like the rule book and also dig into PCR, the PCR part, and in the PCR library, for example. That's also needed to understand the rules for your product category. And then you will need EPD templates, and it could be, for example, the EPD team templates, but also verification report, for example. So we will link to that as well when we send out the email, so it will be easy for you to find. And also you can find the list of LCA practitioners, as Prit mentioned. That's a list with all LCA practitioners that have been registered in our system. So it's a lot of them, but you could also, through the system, on the website, you could search for marketplace, organization. So it will also help you. And then the recommendation is to contact a couple of them, not only one LCA practitioner if you have never worked with this before. So reach out to a couple of them, and then you can discuss like the pricing, the timeline and everything, and see which one would be best suited for your EPD process. And also, of course, the verifiers that Prit also mentioned, that you can find a list on the website. But if you want the email addresses and so on, then you need to create an account and go inside the portal. And as a last step, it's more about how to get started. Follow the 1 to 5 steps that Prit described, but also the part of where you can find the information, the GPI, the PCR library. That's very important in the start as well. And create an account in the EPD portal. You can also book a 30-minute demo, which is like on the start page on our website. If you want 30 minutes with only you and a couple of colleagues, your company, maybe you have specific questions, but the demos is for like EPD owners especially, and that you are in the early phase of the process, that maybe you need to understand the part of, we have this specific product category, we need to start somewhere, how do we do, maybe you need some recommendations and so on. And of course, we have the support where you always can ask your questions, and me and my colleagues will help you with the questions. And we have mentioned a couple of times the introduction to the EPD Portal webinar, and here you have a QR code as well. You can take a photo or go through the camera now, or you will get it in the presentation after. But we highly recommend you to go to this introduction, because then we will help you step by step, like standard format, compiler format, and that will hopefully help you also when it comes to the part of the registration of the EPD. And that's all from us right now, and we are in time, Prit. So that's something good. Both Prit and I like to talk, so we were afraid that we will continue. But we thought of like 15 minutes for a Q&A, where you have the possibility to ask questions. It's not in the chat, it's in the Q&A function, as you could see in the top of the webinar. So if you have any questions, please write them there. Maybe you don't have any, but then we think that it's very clear how you should start and how you should proceed with your EPD registration. Do you want to mention anything as some last words before we see if I have any questions?
No, thank you. I think yeah, it was quite interesting to make it within the time because, as Sarah mentioned, it's easy to talk because there's quite some steps involved. Um, but we had to keep it a bit high level because I understand if you're starting new, if you're getting into the process new, it's probably overwhelming. And therefore, here we are always there to support you. Our support inbox is open, and we are quite responsive. We aim to provide as comprehensive guidance as possible in the support. And therefore, also, Sarah, the series of webinars that we will organize is will get take you into more details into the other parts of the system. Yeah.
Yeah, and that we have the introduction to the portal, but then like we will also, they are not open right now and not on the website, but they will be. But we will have other webinars as well. For example, in September, we will have the PCR development, and also we will have a webinar, for example, regarding verification, another one regarding like the publication part. So it will be more detailed in specific topics because we could not include that all in one webinar because it's a lot of information. So keep your eyes open and then you will find the other webinars. We have one question, Prit, and it is how can we access the Eco Platform database for the construction materials?
Yes, I have attached a link for where you can see the database. But if your question is more about how to retrieve information from Echo Platform, then you would have to go through their API that Echo Platform offers. I think the website is quite descriptive of how to access or retrieve data from their platform.
Yes, hope that will answer your question. And we don't have any, or maybe now something. Yeah, now I needed to update. And I can read it, Prit, maybe. Can we directly publish publish through the ES skipping the regional ES EPD licensees? What would be difference?
So if you are, yeah, I want to clarify, the EPD once published, regardless of where your company is based in, will be in our EPD library. So if you're from Asia, if your company is registered in Asia, you will go through the regional licensees in Southeast Asia, India, and so on and so forth. That's mostly for providing more localized guidance and also to have localized pricing structures. But the EPDs would be listed on our centralized database, that is the EPD library. So if you are from, if your company is headquartered in a licensee region, I don't see we can skip that process, but it does not. What I would like to highlight is it doesn't make a difference for going through the licensee as well. They can support you more closely based on the localized rules and how the market functions and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I hope
so
that
it's the same. It's just that an extension of us. So if you are like your company is based somewhere where you need to go through the licensee, it will not affect you in any way. So this is a good thing, and it's an extension of us, and it's like the publication will go through our system anyway. So, and maybe that could be confusing sometimes also that we are different in any ways, like EPD International North America, and we have EPD International, like from our side, like it's in the same group. So it should be no difference in that aspect. And we also have a question regarding if one already started an LCA with another provider and finished the assessment, that data can be used for creating EPDs on your portal, correct?
Yeah, to clarify, what from my understanding of what you mean by another provider, is if you're referring to another program operator, because each program operator, we have our own set of rulebooks, GPI, General Program Instructions. But I did not get into this, but we also have mutual recognition agreements with other program operators within our system. So if you are using a PCR, or if you are publishing on a program operator that we have a mutual recognition agreement with, then you can publish the EPD on our system. I will not get so much into the detail. I would redirect you to the MRA webpage that we have. But I'm saying if we do not have any agreements in place, then of course you can use the data from the LCA study, but this would also have to comply with our rules based on our GPI and the PCRs as well. So the data can be used, but maybe you might have to adjust it and adopt it, the data, but also the reporting format based on our templates.
So I guess if someone had, like, for example, would go with another EPD program operator and then they would like change to us, then they need to go for that, where they see that everything matches. So they could not reuse the information. You need to make sure that it is in line with like GPI, the right PCR, and go through verifications. You will need to go through everything, but probably it will not take so much time because you have the LCA data which could be used. So that could help you and make it like easier. You don't need to like start all over again, because the most time-consuming part also is the LCA study, for example,
Exactly.
and the LCA data. So if we answer the questions, but otherwise you could also reach out to us, like through the support and so on, if you have more questions regarding this, or if a specific case, and then we can help you. And I think that was all. Maybe a comment here. Yeah, it was from Prit. Yeah, there you have the
I
link.
posted the link.
Yeah. Okay, but it seems to be no more questions. If you have any questions after the webinar, maybe you realize after a while that you have some questions or they are very specific, please contact us. The best way is through the support. And with that said, I just want to say thank you for participating in this webinar, and I really hope that it will help you getting started with EPDs. And thank you, Prit.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.